Mark, I think that it became a sum of all the preliminary statements that we have heard days before. It is good. It means that we can trust these statements that happened before Rammstein. The main thing is that this one became a tank Rammstein, not the air Rammstein. And we basically reaffirmed everything that we heard about the tanks. And it seems like the aerial Rammstein will be the next one. But I think we know that not everything that happens is publicly being declared in Rammstein or after. You've seen news about Reznikov, and this is probably a main news about that he remains Minister of Defense. And what does it mean, Alexei? Well, it means that the results, I think, most likely, it means the results were outstanding. So let's take a look. 8 countries are going to supply us tanks. Germany, Poland, Canada, Portugal, Spain, Norway, Netherlands, and Holland. And representative of Poland said today that the goal is to aggregate enough for several brigades, and some people were upset that many people were disappointed that Danes and Netherlands refused to will not be providing tanks directly, but these 2 countries took upon themselves a repair function and a refitting function for Leopards 1, the 100 that Germany will be transferring, because if this is a great advancement. If one of the countries or 2 of them do not really try to refit them, we'll have issues. But these 2 decided to help us, so this is great. And Minister of Sweden in Kiev was saying today also that they'll supply us some armored vehicles, artillery systems, Archers, and probably Carl Gustaf systems. And also there were a lot of good news about the shells. The United States said that they have signed a ton of contracts to supply, make sure they have enough supply of artillery shells for Ukraine. And Europe also announced that they've successfully overcome the hurdle of Switzerland, and now they'll be able to produce shells for Gepards, so we will have those as well. And the United States announced that they're supplying additional $9 billion, of which I don't know how much will be military dedicated. I think at least 2. So this is another good news. And Blinken from States is saying that the goal is to refit Ukraine so they can push back in spring. And NATO representatives came out and said that Ukraine will be accepted into NATO. So, hello, Vladimir Putin. You started this war for that thing to never happen. But yeah, that's where you are. You're getting complete opposite results. And of course, Reznikov came and said that, yeah, it will happen after the war, but this is basically a formality at this point. So let's go back, Alexei, to the statement that you heard during this press conference from Austin. There was some term used that was weeks, not months, but weeks. And Mark, there are so many people talking about our offensive in spring. It probably means that these things will happen in spring, right? That'll happen much sooner than people were expecting it. Well, yeah, expectations is one thing, Alexei, but I'm just noticing that they're talking about weeks, not months. So it means that offensive could happen in March, I don't know. So the time frame we're looking at is pretty tight. Mark, I know nothing about the time frame and the exact planning, but the fact that they're using weeks, yes, and the fact that they're coming out and saying that this will happen soon means that it likely will. When and where exactly, General Command will be deciding that. 250,000 are watching us. We are on the 7th minute this morning. Please do not forget to share, click like and subscribe. Let's go to the map. I think there's a lot of There's a lot of interesting things happening there on the war theater. Let's start with what do you want? Which side? Oh no, let's go, Mark, to the hot areas. Our traditional areas, Kupiansk-Limansk area in the north. And there is a strike group there, then there is a group near Bakhmut that is trying to push and surround and cut it from our front line. But their forums are talking that both north and south of Bakhmut, they had difficulties. And on the south, they actually had to withdraw. You can see it in the map. Because of different difficulties that they encountered. And you can see on the north, there is an extra push there. They believe that maybe they have a chance to push on the northern side. So we'll see. A curious statement was made today. Actually, no, let's finish the previous topic. Another area is Avdiivka and Pavlovka. That's the southern end of the Eastern Front. And then another, Avdiivka and Pavlovka, still same attempts to push. And Vuhledar is another one in the south, so where we pushed them back and destroyed some of the military forces. They are still trying to push and they're still trying to advance there, and they're actually assigning their successes or attempts to attack there are no real successes, but attempts to 155th Brigade, which I think not much of it is left already, but whatever is, they're saying that this brigade is the one that's fighting. In Kherson, there was artillery shelling. They hit civilians, they hit a hospital, according to local news. In Bereslav, the station of emergency medicine was destroyed. The driver was wounded. They also hit hospital, and one of the people servicing the heating systems there was wounded. Then to the west of Kurakhova and Marinka, there was another hit. They hit the 5-story building. 2 people were recovered from the rumbles, and top floors are completely destroyed. One of the wounded people recovered was taken to the hospital, and in the evening there was some unconfirmed information that one person died as a result of this attack, so maybe that's the one, maybe not. And the head of local administration said that they at least have 2 more people under the rubble, which whom they're trying to discover, trying to find and help, if possible. Minister of Defense of Britain came out and said that 97% of Russian military is fighting in Ukraine. A third of their tanks is destroyed. Largest part of their professional military is destroyed. And this is the professional opinion from the West. There was an aerial attempt on Kiev today. We discovered 6 Russian aerial balloons. This seems to be some weird balloon week in the world. And so we discovered 6 balloons. They were carrying special equipment. So they essentially helping to create a radio image of an object. They trying to map our system of aerial defense, and we, according to their expectations, we did uncover our aerial defense systems and shot these balloons down, but they did not like that, I think, because we did not use anything heavy against them. We used much smaller caliber arms to shoot these down, and they have not found anything. And I think this is an additional attempt to continue PSYOPs campaign against Ukraine, saying that there is a threat from the north. Frankly, I would not want to be a Russian pilot trying to enter our airspace from the north. And today we shot down Ka-52 helicopter, and Yesterday, we shot 2 Su jets. NATO is also stating that they'll double the presence of their troops in Europe from 4 to 8. And that's another result of Putin's fight against NATO expansion to the east. Dwellers of Kremlin are spectacularly successful, in quotes. They were missile attacks. Our aviation, Ukraine aviation, hit back on several occasions on the groups of Russian troops, and also hit 5 aerial defense systems. Oh, I forgot to mention, Russia is trying to push towards Kupiansk as well in the north, and they're unsuccessful so far, these attempts, and pretty bitterly for them. We have some news about sanctions as well. So there was a 10th package of sanctions released today. I think some of the people of this planet will be pretty happy because, and you as well, because there are some sanctions against Russian propagandists announced. Yeah, I saw that, but Alexei, but I have not understood against whom. Barel said something, but I did not get the details. Yeah, I know, Mark. They will announce the details on the 24th, and we'll see the names. And I think what will be the qualifier is calls for war, calls for genocide. This will be the qualifier for people to get into that list. These are serious crimes that do not have expiration date in legal field. So I think at least 2 more owners of villas around Lake Como will feel the pain. Also limiting the dual application imports into Russia. Electronics, chips that might be used for drones and missiles. Some sanctions against Iran. There'll be some sanctions against companies aiding Russia on gray schemes to supply certain imports. And another news that you may like, that $36.8 billion that are of frozen assets might start to be unfrozen in order to be used in Ukraine. So the main political decision is taken, and they figured out the mechanism, the logistics of how to do that, and now it's a bureaucratic group that will be figuring out how to and where to use Russian assets, monetary value, in order to help Ukraine. But we understand that the moment they start doing it, first you open the gate, a tiny crack, and then it'll be the whole flood. So it's a good process. It'll be much easier later. And today they published that Russian imports, the Russian exports in January were $13 billion worth. This is a little more than in December because of the gray schemes they're using on the seas, but it's 36 billion fewer than a year ago. So that's significant. And also Ursula von der Leyen told today that Europe has managed to resolve a problem of dependency on Russian natural gas, even though looking back a year ago that was considered to be impossible. And even after the beginning of war, they were thinking it is impossible. And even Switzerland, the mother of neutrality, is saying that they're joining the corridor of prices for Russian oil exports. So many processes that we have been dreaming of, predicting early on last year, by February of this year, they are turning into concrete events, namely special sanctions that are really cutting down Russian budget. And I think by June, it'll be really, really sad there. It's already getting there. They're already feeling it, but by June, they'll start to see the difference. And Russian leadership will have much fewer options to balance their sheets. And also, combined with the utter defeat on the front and the very ineffective military campaign, one could put a big fat cross on this militaristic campaign of Kremlin and aspirations in Ukraine. and aspirations to hold NATO away from Russian area of influence. Oh, I will add more fuel to the fire. American manufacturer Viagra said they're stopping the imports of Viagra to Russia. Oh, they're fucked. Yes, they are. Kremlin, 70 years plus, right? They cannot do anything. Oh, I'm not even talking about Kremlin, Alexei. These probably won't even be resuscitated by Viagra. I was thinking about the one level down. But yeah, that's painful for them. Kai Salungren, Minister of Defense of NATO, said that 20,000 shells will be given to German tanks, Leopards, given to Ukraine. So this is another great news, because yeah, tanks are not doing much without shells. Also, Alexei Borel asked for European countries to, and I'm quoting here, to look for more tanks on your warehouses in the countries of Europe to deliver to Ukraine. I'm basically translating that you guys don't need that because the front is not in Netherlands, the front is not in Spain or France or Germany. Find the tanks and give them to Ukraine because that's where the front is. Polish newspaper is writing that the meeting of Biden and Zelensky is being planned to happen in Poland rather soon. I do not have the name of this newspaper, but we understand that if Biden comes so close, they very likely will, of course, meet. And the question was more, will they meet on the territory of Ukraine? That could have been a stronger story for Biden, for his internal political positioning. What do you think we'll hear from Biden in that visit a year after the beginning of the war? Mark, I don't know what we'll hear from him. There'll be probably a political evaluation given, you mean terminal, right? Sort of, to what's happening now. They'll likely talk about the goals, reaffirm them, the way the West understands them, that Russia should not be allowed to win, and Ukraine should be helped to win in this war. Of course, he'll bring some gifts and goodies to Poles and to us. They did announce an additional package of $9 billion, right? Yeah, so we shouldn't probably be expecting too much, but there'll likely be something, or maybe official statement of when and what is the military part of that sum. They might relocate another American group to Poland or to the Eastern Europe, because they always have rotation, right? They may just move it closer. Given that Poland, Netherlands, and United States are going to give Patriot systems to Ukraine, that ceremony might occur formally. I would not expect anything groundbreaking during this visit, but it will be likely an affirmation of the course. The West is working steadily and according to their plans. All right, and what do you think Putin can counter that with? They're doing a special meeting on the 21st, 22nd of February, and there'll be an assembly in Russian parliament. Yeah, those meetings in Kremlin. Mitya went to a meeting and Petya went to a petting. Yeah, I hear you, Alex. Let me quote you one satiric writer, Guberman. This one, I think, is exactly about Putin. The writer was experiencing a passion to his paper. The theme was screaming deeper, deeper, and the author, unfortunately, could only do more pages. So yeah, that's kind of summing it up. They'll announce something big, but they'll likely be very feeble in realizing whatever they announce in Kremlin. You know, I like Guberman's another little quote. There are very few Jews on this planet, but each Jew is too much. And yeah, it's not about you, Alexei, but we can accept you, adopt you temporarily, if you like at any moment, into Jewry of the World. All right. We are at 300,000 people. Please continue clicking likes and sharing. People seem to be joining in spurts, and do not forget to subscribe to Fagin Live, to Alexei Arestovich, and to the Privateer Station. It's at the bottom of this video as well. All right, Alexei, there was another article today, rather interesting, in Medusa. It's a Russian media. It's Russian media in immigration. It represents some liberal intelligence that has moved from Russia during this war, and it dedicates that article to the role of Abramovich during this war, and discussing him as a group of other ambassadors that have relations with Putin but do not have an official status. So they're talking about him, about Davidovich, about Kapkov, and it seems like this article was paid for by one of these oligarchs because it talks that Abramovich cannot sleep and eat and really worries about the war in Ukraine and is doing anything he can to help, and he's aiding in exchange of prisoners of war. He has some relation to the grain deals that are losing their actuality at the moment, and he is passionately a good person. Exactly, yes. He suffers along with this war. And what they're saying also is that his Chelsea soccer club that he sold in Britain, that this money will go to Ukraine. And by the way, these money are not being asked and not being sent by Abramovich himself, but these money are frozen now and they will be given to Ukraine regardless of his opinion. Let's discuss that. We know, you and I, that this public is very specific. We shouldn't be expecting anything good, truly good from them. And it's just that we're looking at an attempt right now that systemic liberals, or whatever was inherited from Yeltsin's government, they are looking for a pool to become part of that pool that will be talking to the West about the ending of this war and the consequences to Russia after this war. Of course, after the military part is over. And I was surprised that they talked about Medinsky as a somewhat measurable entity. I thought he's a complete idiot. And Fomin, the general who was at the negotiations early in this war, that he was really dumb. So that's interesting. That's a different angle. I had different opinion about these people, but what is your personal estimation, without any details, but do you think Abramovich's role is elevated and everything that is connected to him had these reasons, humanitarian basis? He was not looking for any personal benefits out of this. Let's give an evaluation of that. Mark, I am not in power anymore. Let those people who are in power answer in more factual details, so I cannot bring current facts. I can talk to the beginning of war, what was happening there, and I can quote the opinion of the participants of the negotiation process, David Arachamia, who was present there. I did talk to him, and he said that Abramovich was very useful. And Mikhail Podolyak also reaffirmed that Abramovich was a very useful person at the beginning of this war. As for the others, I'm not even sure that I know who they are. Well, Medinsky is a Russian media person, but yeah, so I don't know about them. And there were some negotiations happening pretty well early on, remember in Turkey, and they were shut off after Bucha. So how successful do you think they were, in your estimate? Negotiations have to happen during the war, and they are always ongoing behind the scenes. Usually somebody who has access to both sides on the highest level is acting as the leader in these negotiations, as the administrator, because you need to reach to the highest level in one country and to the highest level of the other to verify certain positions. Hey, are we trading people? Are we doing that? And other option is to involve not the top political level, but top business level, and people who can serve as ambassadors, as messengers between two countries. So he was probably trusted early on. Both sides accepted him at the highest level, but Alexei didn't end with anything, right? Well, it hasn't ended yet. As you said yourself, likely these people will be participating in the pool to discuss the conclusion of this war and the terms of that. However, I do not see their exceptional utility in that, because we understand that war will be finished not on Putin's terms, and likely Russia will find somebody from near Kremlin to represent themselves at that point. These people may be partaking in the process as additional communication channel, but let's say Navalny or Patrushev joins or represents Russia at the end of this war, then negotiators will be different. It will not be that group of people that Medusa is discussing. So you think his role is exaggerated? Mark, I cannot give exact evaluation to his role in the process because I do not know how to analytically judge his activity. He did that or this. I can only rely on the words of Podolyak and Darahamian, and they both said publicly and non-publicly that he was very useful. So
many North Korea watchers think that by taking his 10 or 11-year-old daughter, Ju-ae, around with him, that he is saying that she's his successor. Now, a lot of other people disagree. We don't really know. And, you know, a succession for Kim Jong-un should be decades away. So this might be a little bit premature. But because there's so little news that comes out of North Korea, we really grab on to everything. And of course, we can't rule anything out because, after all, this is the Kim regime.
Do we know if this girl has a brother or a sister?
Yes, there are siblings, and that really is interesting because one of them is a boy. And remember, North Korea's regime, although it's totalitarian, is Confucian because Korean society is Confucian. And in Confucian societies, boys are really the only people who are eligible to be rulers. You know, a lot of people say that Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong, is much more capable than he is, but she was never considered by their father, Kim Jong-il, because she was a female. Now, things can change. Kim Jong-un is supreme leader. He could, throw away centuries of Confucian thinking. And that's what makes this really so interesting, because there could be a female successor, and that would be a first for Korea.
And if that happens, do you think that's a good thing for the world or a bad thing?
I don't think it really makes that much difference. And the reason is that whoever the Kim leader is, and no matter what he or she thinks, they have to act in certain ways in order to survive in the snake pit, which is the North Korean regime. So you could take someone who has very good ideas about the way North Korea should operate, but that won't really matter because they've got to conform to that regime, and it's either that or die.
Kim Jong-un, he killed his brother, didn't he? His half-brother?
Kim Jong-nam, yes, he had his half-brother killed at the Kuala Lumpur airport, and they used a chemical weapon to do that. So really that was a stunning event. You know, a lot of people thought Kim Jong-un himself would be a reformer because he went to school in the West, specifically a Swiss boarding school. But, of course, it made no difference. Kim Jong-un has just been as bloodthirsty as his father, who is just as bloodthirsty as his grandfather. And that's this illustration of basically it doesn't matter what the North Korean leader may internally think. It really matters what they do.